And this time, we're not a TV show. We are a podcast. We have a lot of interesting things to talk about this evening. As you know, every single week, every single day, there's a lot to talk about. But I know something that is on a lot of Americans' minds at the moment, and that is recession. Now, a lot of economists, a lot of people, pretty much everyone I know is talking about, are we going to be in a recession? A lot of people say that we're going to be in a recession. A lot of people, they weren't too happy about the comments that President Trump made. But we're going to go to Karen first. What are your thoughts? Are we heading to a recession? And then I'll give some quotes.
Well, based on the stock indicators and just the economist analysis, even before you know uh, the tariffs were implemented, you know, uh, Trump was warned about this. Very likely pulling us into recession. It's really hard to say now because he's so back and forth. But if we continue down this path, I believe that that's going to be the case. It's not only just the tariffs that are causing the problem. This causes kind of like a loop feedback effect. For when we have all the federal job cuts, but you know uh, people are starting to pull back buying, and when that happens, there's more job losses, and that just tends to feed the cycle. So right now, and also prior to this, just a good indicator is what some of the top investors are doing, and basically Warren Buffett has pulled out a lot of his of the Berkshire Hathaway investments and put it into cash assets or Japanese markets.
Definitely. Wade?
Well, there's only really been, according to the numbers, there's only been 34 recessions since 1854, but only five since 1980. That includes the 2008 global crisis, and that was because of unethical people in the banking industry. So I'm not really sure that there's going to be a recession. I think it's just another thing for people to be worried about at the moment, is if we don't have enough things to worry about in the world.
So, Halo?
Forget the recession. I think we're going into a depression. Everybody's so depressed these days. Anxiety is through the roof, right? Oh my goodness. No, but seriously, I think we're headed for a recession. He says we're not, but I think so. I mean, look at what's going on with the market, up and down, and it's still negative.
So I definitely think that we're going into a recession. I think we may possibly go into a depression. I think one of the biggest things right now, um, I think one of the biggest things that we're going to see is we're going to see unemployment rear its ugly head. Now we're seeing a lot of government officials lose their job. We're seeing, and when we say government officials, we're not just saying people working for USAID, right? We're talking about people working for the parks. We're talking about people working in various industries across. Put that on top of tariffs, and then put that on top of people panicking, right? Because panic causes us to slip into a recession even faster. So people are panicking, they're pulling out of the market. We're seeing the market take a nosedive. So I think because of all of these things, a recession is on the way. I don't think that we can stop it. I think it's already been started. And honestly, it looks as though Trump thinks we're heading towards a recession as well. So President Donald Trump says his administration is making very big moves and has acknowledged there will likely be a period of transition or disturbance that could result. So even President Trump, without saying we're heading towards a recession, is basically saying that we are heading towards a recession.
Yeah, and they're not going to blink an eye. It's all of us that are going to be hurting. All the billionaires, they don't care. It's a shame.
Well, you know that part of this whole conversation is the tariffs, right? And before January 2025, you guys do realize that Canada has tariffs on the US before January, right? It's just a big thing now because it's all in the news, where a lot of people think that this is a brand new thing. and we're, having this trade war. And while I can agree we're playing tit for tat right now, Canada has always had tariffs on us for dairy products, poultry and egg, grain products, all these things. So,
have a
and their
trade agreement
entire
with,
reason is to support their domestic GDP. Okay, well, why is everybody upset that we're going to do it now? You know what I mean? They've been doing it, so should we just take it?
Well, for one, what you're saying is a little bit misleading because we do have a trade agreement and those tariffs were part of a trade agreement and those tariffs only kick into effect after a certain amount of product is imported. So basically, it's a protection and it's on both sides for certain industries that these tariffs go into effect, uh, when a certain amount of imports are, imported into a country. And it's the reason for them is because, they want to keep small farms and smaller businesses in business. So they can't have the bigger business completely wiping out all their smaller industries. And that's a two-way street. It's not just Canada. But you hear on the news, it's really misleading. A lot of times they leave out the details of that, and so you get kind of a one-sided, story on that. But that's what the actual story is with those tariffs, and we agreed to those with the trade agreement.
So I thought, so I'm going to be honest, I thought this topic was going to be a little bit more heated between everyone because it's going to affect all of us with these tariffs, but it seems everyone's very calm about it. So we'll go back to tariffs. I know we got heated about tariffs last week. These tariffs are putting us in a position where our closest allies are essentially becoming our enemies. Between Mexico and Canada, we've had these agreements in place for decades. And it allows us to, one, there's a lot of subsidies in place by the United States government, and then putting that in with not having tariffs, it puts American farmers, puts American workers in a better position. Because at the end of the day, with these tariffs, what's essentially going to happen is going to come down to the consumer. Now, I know, Wade, you like to say that this is going to be good for the American people, that we're bringing jobs back to America, but we're really not. Do you know what brings jobs to America? If we get Canadian steel and construction workers, construction companies are able to pay for steel at a good rate without having to worry about tariffs and without having to worry about 50% at the border.
Well, and then the fact that these tariffs are not being done because of jobs between U.S. and Canada. These tariffs, are well known. Trump keeps restating this. These are because of illegal immigration and for fentanyl importation, and especially Canada. They're not even, a supplier of either of those. They're nothing, hardly any illegal immigrants nor fentanyl are coming across the Canadian border. It's more Mexico, but even then, I mean, it's really fentanyl is so tiny, it's almost going to be impossible to stop. We really need to focus more on China, where the actual source ingredients are coming from, and focus on the demand here.
Wait, I see you blinking.
Yeah, because the Canadian Bureau of Immigration has listed over the last 6 months a 3 times increase compared to Mexico of capture of known terrorist individuals because their immigration policies are so lax. Now, that's who they caught. That's who they physically arrested at the border trying to come into the U.S. That's not everybody that already made it through. So I find the statement of they're not coming from Canada very, very wrong, because they got Ali Al-Ghamdi, who cut people's heads off on video, who applied for Canadian citizenship, was approved, and they can't find him. You know where he is? He's in the fucking U.S. That's where he is. So how do you cut someone's head off on TV, apply for Canadian citizenship, and get it, and we say it's not a problem?
Well, how did he get into the U.S. then?
He walked across the border. There's nothing stopping him.
That's our problem, not the Canadians. If we're not stopping people at our border, then it's our problem, not the Canadians.
Wait a minute. So the Canadians letting the terrorists in is not, as our allies, is not their problem? we're responsible as there are
Well,
allies
I
to police
think
them.
that,
In that case, make them a 51st state. Fuck them.
no, I think that I have unrealistic expectations that every single person who has an issue can be prevented in any country. It's very difficult.
I didn't say that.
Well,
What you
pretty
said
much
was
did.
it's our responsibility, in which case I want to throw up a wall between Canada and the U.S. and fuck them. They get one way in, one way out. If it's our responsibility,
Well,
No,
I think
it-
Canada,
basically,
it's
being
the same
it's
like,
everybody's responsibility, obviously.
yeah, but isn't it the same as Canada and Mexico? Mexico, we could just drive through and nobody stops us. It's like Canada. I think you could just drive through,
Oh
right?
no, you can't.
So it's,
oh,
oh, you can't? Well, you can
Oh
in
no, you
Mexico.
can't.
I mean, we go down from San Diego to Mexico. You could just drive through. Nobody
Canada
stops
is
you.
nowhere near that. They're very particular. You can't even have a DUI on your record and get into Canada.
through an open immigration port. But Canadian-U.S. border is the longest unguarded, unprotected border in the world. It's literally, they cut down the trees. That's the border. It's grass, it's trees on this side, trees on this side, and it's a straight line. It's like a power line road. That's it.
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys here. I don't think the biggest issue with the border is the strict policies on immigration. So if we go back a couple decades, so let's say 50s, 60s into the 70s, I believe, essentially there was a revolving door situation where if you lived in Mexico, the way that American citizens are allowed to come in and out the border, that's what was happening in Mexico. So if you were a Mexican citizen, you could cross right in, show your paperwork, come in, work the fields, and then leave. When Americans shut that down, that's when the issues with I don't really think it's an issue. That's where the issues with immigration really started. But if we want to talk in terms of people being in the United States and they don't have the proper documentation, crossing the border isn't how they're getting in. That's actually not. It's very minimal compared to how people are here, quote unquote, undocumented. The biggest issue, the biggest amount of immigrants in the United States who are here undocumented are actually people who come in on a plane or come in legally and overstay their visa. That's really the issue. That is how people, if you would put the numbers together, that's what you have. Now, if you're telling me that you want to try and curb the cartel from coming in, okay, you're not really doing it at the border. That's not really where it needs to be fought. Or if you're trying to say that you're trying to stop terrorists from coming in, if we go to most terrorist attacks that were done by people from outside the United States, they weren't crossing over illegally. They were legally allowed to be here. So the whole crisis at the border, to me, is absolutely insane. I don't think it's an issue. Like, everything that people are talking about really doesn't have to do with things at the border. Every once in a while, we'll see a migrant, like a group of migrants going towards the border. And if that's the case, it's a slow moving group of people. You can literally stop them and they're coming in. They're not trying to sneak in. They're being processed. So it does not make sense to me that we're thinking that there's a crisis at the border. If you really want to curb immigration that's here undocumented, there are so many other things that you have to touch. If you want to curb terrorism, there are so many other things that you need to curb. If you want to curb the cartel, then you have to curb the gun industry in the United States, because the only reason the cartel is able to do what they're doing is because they're buying illegal guns from the United States and bringing it in. So the problem isn't even from Mexico into the United States. The problem is United States into Mexico, which then causes the violence, which then causes the fentanyl to come in. So I think all of this is talking about the border is just a waste of time.
There's a test case right now in the courts regarding the guns going across. Mexico is actually suing the gun manufacturers right now, and it's a kind of a test case because gun manufacturers kind of have had immunity except for in some rare cases. And
Yeah,
that's really the problem, because guns are illegal in Mexico.
I think that's the stupidest freaking argument. That's like me trying to sue Hustler for fucking carpal tunnel syndrome. All right, I chose to buy the magazine and jerk off. So if you want to sue someone, sue the United States government. Don't sue the gun manufacturers. That's like suing a car manufacturer. I chose to drive it drunk and kill someone, but let me sue the car manufacturer because it was sold to me by Billy Bob down the street. I mean, that's the
Well,
argument we're really having. That's a
not really,
ridiculous
because
Yeah, but
argument.
the issue-
the
yeah, but
gun
the issue
manufacturers are
is
knowingly, you know, supplying them. If they weren't knowingly supplying, it would be a different argument.
Oh, you mean like the vehicles that get sold by secondary owners from U.S. dealerships that end up being made into tactical vehicles for the terrorists overseas, which we have photos of Billy Bob's mowing service with the phone number on his door still. You mean like them? They should get sued for that?
They didn't outfit them with the guns, so no.
Well, I didn't tell the Mexican to pull the trigger.
Okay, so when it comes to the guns, let me say this. When it comes to guns in the United States and the manufacturers, the issue isn't American-made guns are killing people. The reason why they're suing is because Americans gun manufacturer because they're suing Smith and Wesson, right? It's specifically Smith and Wesson first. So
Yeah, and
West-
I think there's a couple others that are named in the suit, but or they may be different suits. But yeah, Smith and Wesson is definitely one of them.
So the issue isn't that they're selling these guns. The issue is they know that it's going to get into this secondary market to the cartels. That's why they're suing. So it's like it would be the equivalent of pharmaceutical companies making opiates and then saying we're going to make it this way, where it's like easy to break because we know that drug dealers are going to buy it and sell it. So that's where the suit is coming from. It's not that they're making guns and they're coming in. It's they're making guns. They're specifically manufacturing guns that are what the cartel needs.
Exactly.
And they're allowed. They know that the market's there. They know that it's going to happen, and they're essentially marketing
Third parties that are right on the border.
You mean like Sudafed at Walgreens? We got a hell of a class action lawsuit then. Because drug dealers buy Sudafed all the time. So we
Why do you think it's
need to
behind
sue
the counter?
Walgreens.
You can't just get it. You can only get two.
So,
They did that just because of that. So yes, it's a response.
So yeah, so
you'll get two.
Aaron's right.
You'll get two guns.
So-
Whether it's in my hands from the initial purchase, it's no longer the gun manufacturer's responsibility. Would you agree with that?
So here's the difference. Wade, is that would be the equivalent of Sudafed saying, we know that they're going to get it illegally. Let's kind of market it in a way and let's manufacture it in a way that's appealing to them. The reason why Sudafed's not, one is hopefully because they're a moral company, but basically they're not doing it because Sudafed isn't being purchased, it's being stolen. So there's no market value in Sudafed allowing people to steal it, and that's why it's behind the counter. If it was still on the shelves and they knew there was an issue, people could have sued Sudafed. The issue is they did something in order to curve people obtaining Sudafed. That's why Walgreens isn't being sued.
You mean like all the background checks that gun owners have to go through and all the documentation?
Background checks.
You know, I got to prove more about me than anything.
Go to a
I can
gun
walk
show
in and get a
and
real
write it all
ID
together.
and a passport easier than I can go get a gun. All right, especially in the state of Virginia. All right, I got to prove so much stuff. I'm surprised they don't take blood from us. But my point is, once it's in my hands, it's no longer the gun manufacturer's responsibility. They made a weapon. I chose to buy it. If I am an irresponsible gun owner, that is my fault. If my gun falls into the gang members' hands around here, that's my fault. If my kid runs off with my gun and does something stupid, again, my fault. So how is it the gun manufacturer's fault? That's just going after someone who has money to try and make a point.
No, it's not.
Why
Go ahead.
don't you allow anybody to have nuclear weapons then?
Well, I would. If I could buy it, I'm so pro-gun, I would buy a battleship if you let me. I swear to God. And I'm going hunting in Somalia as a vacation. Right off the
The point
coast.
is, we restrict things that are dangerous, and it's where do you draw the line?
Stupidity.
Yeah, and the stupidity is we're allowing cartels to exist, unnecessarily. We're not restricting them enough.
So we're gonna switch topics now because we're at that point. We hit that 20-minute mark. We can, if you guys want to talk about it next week, drop it in the topics section. Next, we're going to talk about the Department of Education. Trump wants to get rid of the Department of Education. Trump no longer wants to ensure that American students have what they need. So essentially, starting tonight, the Department of Education is going to cut its workforce in half. And that's not just it. This is just the starting point. They're going to cut it in half starting now, and they're going to slowly, WWE McMahon is slowly going to ensure that it's disbanded. So again, I'll give you numbers. I'm going to go to Sohaila first, and then I'm going to give you guys the numbers afterwards. So Sohaila, what are your thoughts about Trump administration doing this?
Yeah, so back in the Reagan days, Reagan actually wanted to get rid of it, but there wasn't enough people interested in doing it, so he backed off of that. What he's essentially wanting to do is let the state take care of their own education system, which I'm fine with if they could do it. So that's my thing. If the state could take care of their own education system, why not?
I mean, that's easy for you to say because you live in California.
Yeah.
Would you be saying the same thing if you lived in Alabama?
Yeah, probably not. Again, I'm in California, so again, I don't know what the predicament is in every other state.
Oh, well, I've lived around the country. I can assure you, putting the education in the state's hands is not a good idea. Especially, when you get in the Bible Belt, they want to have religious education. So basically, they don't want to teach science. They just want to, indoctrinate people religiously. And this has been a pet project of the Heritage Foundation, since the 80s, and it's written into Project 2025. I mean, this is all part of Project 2025. That's one of their pet, points um, for implementing with the Trump presidency.
So I love you, Mel. But every once in a while, you pull a fucking Fox News and you get sensationalized on us. Trump does not want to not give students what they need. What he's saying is that education should be handled by the states and not an overreaching government entity. All right, so he's not saying in any way that he doesn't want kids educated, and I agree. There's probably some really smart people in Alabama schools, and there's probably some really dumb motherfuckers in Alabama schools. But the same could be said for any state here in the U.S. And as for the Bible Belt, yes, they really want religion in their schools, but you know what? They can't have it because nothing with the Department of Education has anything to do with the separation between church and state. So even if he gets rid of that, that is still held separate. So that argument is thrown out the window. The real argument that we have here is what are the pros of having this umbrella of people, this large amount of people that say you must do this, and our kids are coming out dumber and dumber by the day because they're only taught how to pass tests.
Well, another issue too is I think a lot of these schools don't want to lose their funding from the federal government, which is what, only 2%, 3%. So it's really nothing major, but it is major for them, I guess. And all these special education classes. Now, I was personally in a special ed class. I think it was for speech when I was like in third grade or something. And there was like maybe 6 of us around a round table for an hour a day. But I guess that would be called like a special ed class, right?
Well, that's part of getting rid of the Department of Education. That won't be a requirement anymore. Having to, provide accessible, instruction. And also, one of the things that's part of this is school vouchers. Now, school vouchers are, for, not just charter schools or whatever, private schools. It's basically going to be sucking funds from public education. And not only that, it is a problem because they want them to be used for parochial schools as well. So, that is a problem.
So I'm gonna go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you're going to use the voucher you get for your child to send them to religious education. You're basically not separating church and state anymore.
So I'm gonna jump in. So the reason why, so I have to respond to Wade saying I'm like Fox News and being sensational.
This time you were Fox News.
No. I mean what I said. So the Trump administration, the Trump team, has a way of saying this is not what we're really trying to do, like Project 25, and then it is what they're trying to do. And you can say that I'm being sensational. You say that I'm being like Fox News. I don't think I am. I actually know that I'm not, because I'm looking at what they say and what they do. Now I'm going to say something. An uneducated population is a population that's easier to control. And if you don't educate the population, you can feed them whatever information that you want to feed them. So let's say that we take away the Department of Education, which makes sure that homeless kids and runaways go to school, that makes sure kids who need special education, they get the education. We just basically make sure that, education, no matter where you are in the United States, is pretty aligned. Now, that's one thing I'll say, is they don't do a great job at that. Because I'm going to give you, if you look at education in California and you look at education in Alabama, California is superior. If you're along the Bible Belt, people just aren't getting the education they need. If you go to the inner cities, you're seeing a lot of kids being passed without being able to read. Now, I feel like Bush's No Child Left Behind Act, major problem for students. I think that was something that was done. But I do think that this is Republicans led by Trump, led by Elon, to try and make a population that's easier to control. Because if you look at things across the country, when you take education away, specifically science, we get a rise in measles. We get the spread of COVID. There's a lot of things that happen once you start taking that education away. You want to take away sex education, we get a bunch of pregnant teens. It all adds up together. And I actually think the Department of Education needs more power, and there should be something standard across. I don't think state rights to count when it comes to education, because we just end up with a section of the country where kids are just stupid.
Well,
we have that now.
Why education is so uneven across, places. One is, the state standards, but also the funding comes from property taxes. And so it basically depends on where you live is how much money your school's going to get. And that's really something that needs to be rectified.
So I completely disagree. And here's what we allotted to, right? Your neighbor across the street is now in charge of telling you how to raise your children, what you should be teaching them, what you should be doing with them, how you should be raising them, what you should be feeding them, the whole 9 yards, right?
That's why a lot of people do homeschools.
So as adults, we have forgotten, all right? We have forgotten that we are responsible for our children and how they're raised and what they learn, not the schools. All right, the schools are used as babysitters nowadays, and they're taught to pass tests. They're not actually taught life skills anymore. And the Department of Education has only been around since 80 or 88. Are you saying that we were all dumbasses before then? Because we all survived, and we're mostly smarter.
No, schools got better. Schools significantly got better.
Schools got
I don't
worse.
agree. I don't agree. I think they got worse. In my days, I graduated in 82. We had everything. We had home economics. We had ROP. We had typing. We had skills that you could take out to the everyday world. So
Yeah,
I think kids got dumber now. I think they're so
Shit,
goddamn
we had a
dumb
rifle
now.
range and archery range.
Okay, I'm going to
In
pause
California.
1 second. I want to pause for 1 second. So, Halo, where'd you go to school? What state?
In California.
Wait, where'd you go to school?
In
And
California.
out of Washington as well. Both.
What I'm saying is, I wholeheartedly disagree. So not even just California, right? So if you look at it, I really just want you to think, because you guys are both coming from California. I want you to think about schools today and schools in LA in the 80s.
I don't know anything about LA. I mean, this was San Diego for me, San Diego County.
San
Escondido,
Diego as
actually,
well.
Vista,
Like I said, where
Oceanside,
you're
and then I
located.
also went to high school in Washington State as well. Again, we had everything. We had home ec. We had everything. We even had finance classes. They do nothing now. They do nothing. We had driver's ed. Everything is all subject to getting your own things outside of school now.
Everything is
Well,
about
there's
passing those
skills
tests to
they're
get
taught
that federal
now,
funding.
like computers and things that are more relevant to modern day vocations. So they've been replaced with different things. Now, do I think that we should maybe revert and have a few of the things that we had when we were growing up? Maybe so. I mean, we can learn from our mistakes, but the thing is, that doesn't mean we should get rid of the Department of Education. Maybe we need to lobby
Well,
the
I'm
Department of Education for changing standards.
But I'm just wondering, what are they actually doing for our school districts now anyways? I mean, everything's getting cut. So who's pocketing the money if the Department of Education is there? What the hell are they doing then? To me,
So-
it doesn't sound like they're doing better.
So what you're talking about is not the Department of Education. What you're talking about is, as Karen said before, that schools are funded by property taxes. Essentially, schools should be, in my perfect world, all the money from taxes that need to go to school would all be rounded up on the federal side, and it would all be doled out equally.
Evenly, exactly.
I agree.
It doesn't
I
matter
agree
where
with that.
you were born,
And
They would,
the
and what
federal
color you are,
government-
or how far you are from a city. It doesn't matter.
I'm okay
yeah, we
with
even
that.
had school buses. No school buses anymore either. Remember that?
I am absolutely okay with a giant pot managed by the federal government, somebody in there spreading it out equally across the schools. I am okay with that. I am not okay with some fat cat sitting in Washington telling me how I'm supposed to raise my kids.
is telling you how to raise your kids. I'm gonna breathe. I hate this talking point. No one's gonna tell me how to raise my kids. I'm not using your accent. Wait, I'm using the accent of other people who say this.
Any accent you
No
want.
one is trying to tell you how to raise your kids. No one is trying to tell you how to raise your kids. You can raise your kids how you want to raise your kids. What I'm saying is the federal government is saying, hey, kids need to learn history, English, science, math, social studies, ethics, across the board.
And again, as a parent, that's my responsibility to ensure
No,
that my
it's-
school is
No, it
doing
isn't.
that.
No. I mean,
Yes,
we have to
yes.
have a certain baseline of understanding as a culture.
So we make laws. We make laws by state and we make laws federally, right? All right. So let's say that as a state in Virginia, we get together and we determine our curriculum is this. All right. And then we, as a state, the parents in the state, are tasked with ensuring the schools are doing that.
Why are parents involved in education? Why are parents involved in education? Do you know who should be in education? In charge. Parents shouldn't be in charge of putting a curriculum. People who did
I didn't say that. I
studies.
said we're responsible for ensuring that the school is doing what they're supposed to do, and their kids are learning what they're supposed to learn.
No, I don't think parents should be involved. I don't think parents should be involved. I think parents should focus on raising their kids. You're a parent, you put the values into your kid. You're a parent, you can teach them what religion you want to teach them. If you're a parent, this is what you have. We're talking about education. We're talking about the
I'm talking about management of it. I'm talking about oversight of it. I'm
parent.
talking about it's no different than if you go to work, you have a manager who ensures you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yes, your manager isn't
Responsible for ensuring
daddy.
the schools are doing what they're supposed to do.
But your manager isn't daddy. Is daddy managing you? I mean, there's some businesses where yes, but for the most part, daddy's not managing you. These are
You said it with kids.
It's a bunch of different people coming together,
All right.
who aren't connected, but who all have specific knowledge about something, and they're using that specific knowledge to build something. There's no need. Like, daddy is not managing you. Mom and dad don't need to manage you.
Yeah, see, now that argument suffices to send my kids to the babysitter and it's their responsibility. That's what that argument is.
No, education education is not child rearing. A babysitter is not education. A babysitter does not have anything to do with education.
There's absolutely no reason that I shouldn't be able to ensure that my kid's school is not doing what they're supposed to, i.e. teaching math, teaching history, teaching science. It's my responsibility to make sure that's being done as a parent. If it's not being done, it's my responsibility to rise up and say, this isn't being done. We need to fix this, not the government's.
Well, that's why you have school board meetings to go to.
Exactly. You know, if the teachers are a problem, if there's a particular teacher that's a problem, you know, there's complaints and, you know, basically, you know, parents can, you know, get together and teachers are removed for things like that if they're really bad.
And if parents don't really like it again, you could homeschool them.
Exactly.
They really want. But even
You wanna be
homeschooling, you
mommy
have a
and daddy teaching
curriculum.
your kids,
Right.
You can't just do your
you
own
have
thing.
that option always.
So what is the purpose of the Department of Education again?
To make sure that schools are doing what they need to do to dole out federal money, but essentially to ensure that schools are doing what they need to do, right? So when it came to time for schools to integrate, so black kids could play with white kids, back in the day, Department of Education was like, okay, we're going to make sure that
No, you can't.
black kids.
No, you can't. Department of Education didn't start until the 80s. All right. Integration was way before then. Let's not turn this that way, Mel.
Let me clarify. Maybe I wasn't clear. Let me pull it up to tell you exactly what the Department of Education does.
I was going to say, because
The ED conducts.
I know it didn't go that far back.
Do you want me to say it? Do you want me to say it? Because it's going to come down to civil rights. So let me backtrack. Actually, let me just read this one line. ED enforces civil rights laws to ensure equal access to education and prohibits discrimination. That is literally one of the things that they do. So yeah, so when little white kids and little black kids come into mix together, they want to make sure these teachers who may not be too fond of the little black kids coming in, saying like, hey, you, buddy, you can't do that. And again, there were schools up to like 2 decades ago in the 80s in the South where they finally integrated. There were times, there were still schools in the South.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I'm saying is we don't need that department anymore when it should be there.
Who's going to enforce that then, Wade?
That should be the people of the state.
And they
Wait, no.
were just as bigoted as they ever were.
Like, I want the government.
Look, you can't have it both ways, all right? You can't have give me mine, but I want to be under yours. All right? It's either you're responsible or you're not.
I don't even know what you're saying. Can you please? No, I don't know what you're talking about because you can't have it both ways. Everything I've been saying has been along the lines. I don't think parents should be that involved in what goes on in teaching every day. I think the people who conduct the research to be like, hey, we're going to conduct research. This curriculum works to ensure that all students are on the same page. This is what we do. I don't think Sally's mom, who thinks that vaccines give people autism, should be affecting the curriculum.
No, but then again, little Bobby's mom, who says that 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4, shouldn't be able to tell the Department of Education that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. And if you don't tell everybody 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4,
No, don't say that.
That's not happening.
Don't say that way. Say what you actually want to say.
No, that's exactly what I want to say.
So you're talking about math and not something else.
I'm talking about dumbasses, stupidity. Just like you, vaccines give people autism. No, they don't. All right? Plain and simple, they don't. The measles outbreak is because you're a dumbass, lady. You didn't vaccinate your kids. And you should
Hold
take
up.
your out back and have your fucking foot put up your ass.
Hold up.
But,
Can we all pause for a second?
yeah.
I think we all agree. This is twice in a night that we all agree. Do we all agree that vaccines does not cause autism? Do we all agree about that?
Yeah.
Correct.
100%.
So
100%.
congratulations, everyone. We all agree tonight. Twice. I forgot what the other thing was, but this is twice in one night.
Nice.
Record.
Yeah.
Or the
Those are the
tariffs.
things that should be dealt with on a state level. These are our morons. All right. We aren't going to listen to them. They aren't the entire voice of the people. All right. This is why I use the phrase, I hate people. All right. Here's why. A person is smart. A person has the ability to look at evidence and maybe change their mind and maybe not. You get enough people together and convince them that you should be able to shit in a litter box. That is the next right that is going to be violated, is my right to shit in a litter box because there's enough
Frank,
people
this is
screaming
just
about it.
propaganda you're
People are
spouting.
stupid.
Yeah, people are stupid. I agree with that, and you're exemplifying that right at this moment.
Woohoo! Thank you. So that's why I wore my occasional adult shirt.
So I just want
There is absolutely no insult you can tell to me that I haven't set 6 inches from my own face. All right.
Well, because nobody's shitting in a litter box, and nobody's saying 2 + 2 does not equal 4. You're just making ridiculous examples.
No, I'm
Okay.
using the ridiculous real life examples. My son got a letter from school that
We
they're
have
going to put litter boxes in the fucking restroom.
we have to move on. Like I took you off of the screen and you're still going. So we have to move on. We have a couple more topics. I just
Age thing, I'll believe you.
okay. So I just want to say a couple of things, right? So since we're a podcast now and not a TV show, and we're using a whole different program. It's not working where we can put the comments up on screen. So we are broadcasting to like 4 or 5, 6 different places. I'm not even sure anymore. But someone on my personal Instagram said, this is from Teresa, this man sounds like Donald Trump. That's the only comment I want to read. Joanna says, when the system
Comment ever, the best you're ever going to get, the best comment ever.
Oh my God. So Joanna says, well, now the system is designed more to create workers rather than independent thinkers. That is all the education system is about. And somewhere, because you're going to appreciate this, Wade, Philip says, I don't agree with you, Mel. So a couple things. So I don't know where that came from because, again, we're not seeing the comments in real time anymore. And my phone is telling me to go to bed. So Karen, do you want to lead in to the KGB topic?
Yeah, last week there was another KGB agent, former KGB agent, that came out and said that Trump was a Russian asset that has been groomed since 1987, and he's not the first one who has stated that. There's been like a year ago there was another KGB agent that former KGB agent that said the same thing, and this has been an ongoing speculation for a lot of years. I mean, even before Trump was president, he was being investigated, because he had a lot of business, with Russian oligarchs, and he was, allegedly laundering money for them with his real estate properties. So, I find this very concerning based on his, current actions as president, aligning himself with Putin, cutting off intelligence to Ukraine and weaponry. And even in his past presence, he arranged a lot of meetings with Putin, without any monitors there. And that's never been done with a foreign, power, especially not a hostile foreign power.
Well, he's definitely a Putin puppet, that's for sure. And it's a shit show out there. And they're supposed to have a ceasefire going on, but now it's up to Putin. So let's see.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of hope for this because I feel like, basically Ukraine is getting railroaded, and, Russia, and UK and United States in the late, I think it was 1998, signed the Budapest Memorandum. And for, Ukraine, doesn't owe us anything because we, in exchange for them to getting rid of their nuclear arsenal, they inherited the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. And so for them to give it up, they were supposed to be protected by all 4 of us powers in perpetuity. So Russia violated that by invading Crimea in 2014, and we should have protected them then, but we really didn't. And then, when they invaded again, because they were emboldened, in the Donbass region, at least we, gave them the weaponry to defend themselves. But we were even hesitant to do that. First, we were just giving them like little little things, and then we gave him more powerful weapons and more powerful weapons as time went along. But we were really not honoring our end of the agreement, and you know, Trump, is basically uh, you know not only not honoring it, but basically creating a situation where Putin is guaranteed to win.
So I'm not saying anything. So Joanna says 100% Karen. I'm not saying, I want to hear what Wade has to say. Before I jump in,
There's plenty of ways to work this out. I mean, Ukrainian Foreign Legion will take you up to 60, Karen. Feel free.
Why should we have to work out? We have a treaty that we signed. We have an obligation.
Again, if you feel we're not doing the right thing, the Ukrainian Foreign Legion will take you up to 60. All you got to do is go down to the local embassy and say you're there to sign up to defend Ukraine.
so I want to kind of stay on topic here. Wade, KGB, sleeper agent, Trump.
I mean, that goes all the way back to the communist red hunt in Hollywood in the 40s. There's always somebody doing something, some way, somehow. And the worst part about it is nowadays there's so much instant media. It's like the telephone game. And you can pull up 4 different sources. I've got them up in front of my screens, and 4 different sources say 4 different things. I have no idea if he's an agent or not. All I know is he needs new glue for his toupee. All right, I like the guy, but he needs some new fucking glue.
Well, I posted like at least a dozen different articles, links, and over that have been put together over the years that show how compromised he is. So basically, this is not just he said she said kind of situation. These are intelligence agencies that have been following him. Not just ours, but former KGB. I mean, these guys, if anything, they would want to, hide, that he was an asset. But apparently, they no longer want association, and so, you know, and his long history of his business dealing. I mean, basically, almost he would have gone bankrupt in like 1992 had it not been for Russian oligarchs, laundering money through properties that he bought.
Okay,
And
so
all
Did
this
you
is published
know?
in those, the information that I gave, over the past couple days.
so I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna jump in because I haven't given my information about this yet. Okay, so I'm gonna say a couple things. One, I've always said that Trump has been working with Russia. If we go back, not too far, but a little bit, during the 2016 presidential debate, 2016, with the Steele dossier,
Oh,
which is essentially dropped the bomb that nothing happened with, essentially saying that Russia was helping Trump get elected. So if you pair that with the information I'm about to say now, I do think it's damning, but I want to say one thing. Even if President Trump is working as a sleeper agent for the former KGB, now Putin, who is president of Russia, I don't think Trump's core base would actually care. So now I'm going to go into the facts. So a former intelligence chief who served in the KGB, 6th doctorate in Moscow. I'm so sorry. Russian is not a language that I can even try. Alnor Musaf basically said,
Oh, yeah, I would have fucked that up too.
yeah, I know. Basically said that the KGB was recruiting Western businessmen and it was top priority for Soviet intelligence. Trump was high on their wish list. Now, this is what he came out and said. He also said that Trump's code name was Krasnov. So Krasnov, if anyone wants to look that up, because I'm probably not saying it right. So when you take that, and then you take the Steele dossier, and you take what happened in late 80s, early 90s with Russian oligarchs, bailing him out, and then you add it all together, and then you see what's happening now with the gaslighting, because I want everyone to remember that Trump went and tried to gaslight the entire nation by stating that Ukraine started the war. Now, Karen wasn't here for this, but back when we were a TV show and not a podcast, Wade, Sohaila, Mel, and Sean spoke about how, what's it, February 22nd? On February 22nd, a couple years ago, Russia was invading Ukraine. So after the gaslighting of an entire nation, and you tie all that together, I'm going to say what I've always believed, that Trump is an agent of the KGB. And I'm saying the KGB and not Russia because we all know Putin is trying to bring the KGB back. And that's all I want to say on this topic. Now, Wade, you can go ahead, Karen.
He's a former KGB agent.
Did you know?
In case you weren't aware of that. But one of the reasons why back, in the 80s when they were trying to recruit, American businessmen, is that one of the reasons they found Trump so attractive is because of his narcissism and, his, I don't know. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, I'm getting a message on my end. But
Yeah, it's very hard to
his
hear you.
narcissism,
Yeah.
it made him very easily manipulated.
So, Wade, really quick, say what you have to say, and then we're going to jump into the last topic of the evening, which is one that Sohaila pitched. So go ahead.
Two things. One, it is not unnatural for a government to add false information to a narrative. Happens all the time with the U.S. government. We do it all the time. Two, the Steele dossier was published as unverified information, and the only reason it became verified is a judge ruled that it was fair reporting because it was out in the open. Now, even Christopher Steele, who wrote the Steele dossier, said, "This is unverified. This is my speculation. This is a starting point for an investigation."
So otherwise known as raw intelligence.
Yes. And then the court said, because BuzzFeed published it, and the court said, okay, look, it was leaked. It's okay under the Fair Reporting Act. All right. From there, everybody else jumped on it. So we don't even know if that information is true, verified or not. It's there as a starting point.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's why I was saying all of it tied together.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for that. All right, so Hayla, you wanted to talk about...
Okay, so there was a little boy that called emergency number because his mom ate his ice cream.
I saw that. That's not what I thought you were going to talk about. That's not on the list, but so we can talk about that to end the night.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, so there's this little boy, little black boy that called 911. He says, "Hey Siri, call 911," and it actually did. And that's what the mother says. He says, "Oh my God, they actually came just from a Siri." So she says, "Wow, I'm astonished that he did that. It was so easy for him to do." But yeah, because his mom ate his ice cream. And a couple days later, the two police officers came and brought ice cream with blue frosting on top for the little kid.
I thought that was a bad idea. It was only going to encourage him to do it more, I thought.
I know, I saw your comment, but I did read the comments. Some of them was kind of interesting because they said, yeah, this could have been going differently because of Black people getting issues with the 911 calls and stuff. I mean, she could have been shot too. You never know, but could have went sour.
Oh yeah, it could have been dangerous.
Yeah.
It just depends. Luckily, there was two women officers, and they thought it was pretty funny. They did have to respond. But even an accidental 911 call, they have to respond to. It's just the law. And they went in there and they asked the kid some questions, and first he was saying he was getting beaten, then he fessed up that he didn't get ice cream.
Yeah.
I thought it was just so cute.
So I'll say this. It was funny. A lot of people, the comments were split with a lot of people saying that it wasn't funny. They shouldn't have posted it. This is not funny. I think it was funny. I think it was a break from the news cycle. Like, it spread far enough around that it was a break from the doom and gloom. But I will say this, as a black person, and yes, Wade, I am black. As a black person, depending where I'm at, I will not call the cops unless it's like literally life and death. If I'm in Charles County, Maryland, which is the richest black county in the entire United States, and I do spend time there. If I'm in Charles County, I have or even PG County, which is used to be the richest black county in the United States, but it's kind of not anymore. I have no problem calling the cops because they just see black people as people. If I'm in the Inland Empire, I don't think I want to call the cops. If I'm in, you know that part of Virginia, Wade, where you're leaving Northern Virginia before you get to Richmond? I'm probably not calling the cops. And just because I fear for my safety, I've actually had bad interactions with cops in that space between Northern Virginia and Richmond. So let's hear what you have to say about this, because I see that face. And then we're going to call it a night because we're about to be over in 3 minutes.
Nobody knew that little kid was black until they showed up. All right, so for anybody to say that it was going to go sideways or could go sideways because it was a black kid is an after-the-fact statement. Just like nobody knows you're black if you call the cops until you let them know you're black. All right, so when you're on the phone,
Martin.
Look, there's nobody who knows that you're black and says, "Oh, a black person called. Let's go fuck them up." That's not what happens. Could it? Sure. But 99.9% of the time, that is not what's going to happen.
Okay, so you seem to be a little confused.
He called 911 probably in school.
You
if he's got a problem, he called 911. He learned a lesson.
You seem to be confused. This is not what I think is happening.
I'm male.
I don't resonate with that. So here's what I'm thinking, right? So, and I'm on my backup mic tonight because my other mic wasn't working. So if you see this little pink wire, I don't think someone's going, "Oh my God, a black person called 911, police officer. Treat him like a black person." That's not what I think is happening. What I think is happening is that police officers are being called. They don't know anything about the caller, and they come in and they see a black person and they automatically assume that the black person that they see is the bad guy. And it has happened. It has happened where black people have called the cops, and the cops have come and they've shot black people and they're like, "Why are you shooting me? I called you." Like, this has happened. So the reason why, if I'm in that place in between Northern Virginia and Richmond, or if I'm in the Inland Empire, I'm going to be wary about calling the cops, calling 911, not because I think the 911 operator is just doing their job. But I do think they're going to see me and they may be a little trigger happy, or they may assume that they may assume that I am the bad guy, not necessarily the victim. And that's where the issue comes in.
Okay. I'm going to preference this statement because I do not believe personally in what I'm about to say. All right. My own personal opinion. But there is a reason that stereotypes exist across all genders, races, creeds. All right. There's a reason for this. Not everybody falls into it, but there's a reason for it. As a matter of fact, we all fell into it earlier talking about schooling in Alabama. There is a reason that these stereotypes exist that could put people on edge. Do I think that's the case with a 4-year-old who called because my mommy ate my ice cream? Absolutely not. I think that's people just trying for 5 minutes of fame on the TV. If it's somebody else, that may be a different story. But somehow, some way, someone's always got to work race into it. And that exists because of those stereotypes. Now, me, I don't care if you're purple, green, black, or blue. That's why you said, "Yes, I'm black, Wade." No, you're not. You're a fucking human, just like everybody else. You have different issues. You have things that you run into with your skin color. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying to me, you are
Dominican. I'm Cuban. And I'm going to say Italian, too, because if I don't, my mom gets really mad if I leave that out.
The only problem I have with you is the pearl.
Italian, and I am black.
So So
Wait,
I
think
am
you're
saying though
conflating,
that there is a
uh,
stereotype.
I'm trying to grow my hat. It's in the awkward stage.
It is in the awkward stage. Okay, I feel like it's a fucking shit pet mill.
I'm trying to, like, it's either I cut it off. Look, it's either I cut it off and it's short, or I grow it out and it's long. But this is the awkward phase, and it's like, hey, this is what's going to do. If you want long hair, this is what you got to do. This is what you have to go through. So I'm in the awkward phase. Anyway, we're over by 2 minutes, so I'm going to let everyone. I'll go last this time. So Hayla, we'll go with you. Your 30-second sign off. I didn't do any of the ads, but it's okay. We'll do ads next week. So Hayla.
Yeah, so this has been always a fun thing. I love being with you guys, and I love telling it like it is, what we believe, and nothing's wrong with that. Everybody has an opinion. And again, just go out there and be happy, guys.
Karen.
I just want to say this is my second podcast, and I want to thank you guys for inviting me to join the panel. It's been enjoyable, and I look forward to discussing the topics of the day with you on a regular basis.
Wade.
Look, as the only occasional adult on this panel, so everybody else is an adult, I'm just an occasional adult. I'd like to remind the viewers not to release your goldfish into rivers. All right, then we get megalodon goldfish. All right, it's ridiculous.
I agree with that too.
I agree with that too. Oh, we all agree on something. So my sign off is going to be, I know us veering into recession is going to suck. I know people are going to panic sell. I know the market is going to crash. I know people are going to see their retirement go down. But if we don't panic, it's okay. And also, what goes down always comes up. And if you look at it for the past 30 years, the market has tanked and then gone back up. So please don't panic. And if you have some spare cash laying around when the market tanks, don't panic. That is a fire sale. So all I'm saying is if we put ourselves in a position where we don't panic, we'll be able to survive a recession. I'm also not a financial advisor.
Until next week, everyone.
Right.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Yay.
Perfect. All right.